Thanks for joining me for episode 43 of the Educational Duct Tape Podcast. This is the Season 2 finale. I am psyched to be joined by 8 different duct tapers sharing their own EDU duct tape success stories from this past school year, and I am excited to share with you the Season 2 Giggle Mix, some of my favorite moments from this past season. Let's get into it.
I'm Stephanie Howe, co-host of Get Inspired and Innovate, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to the Educational Duct Tape Podcast with Jake Miller.
Welcome in, duct tapers. Thanks for joining me today. I hope that you're having a great day and that for those of you in the Northern Hemisphere, you're having a great summer. I can't believe it's come this far. 38 episodes, 16 regular episodes, a dozen mini episodes, a handful of remote learning focused episodes, 10 months packed to the limit with EDU duct tape, dozens of amazing guests, dozens of amazing EdTech tools, even more great ideas, oodles of Flipgrid videos, hundreds of fun tweets, and thousands of impossible to identify adjacent possibles. And that doesn't even count the stuff from season 1. It is an absolute honor to have the opportunity to speak directly into your ears through this podcast. I am so grateful for all of you who have listened and are here again with us today. Thank you. So as you could tell, I'm packing up my soapbox. High horse. 80s theme song and microphone for a month or so. I plan to start season 3 on August 5th, and there will be a handful of mini episodes in the meantime, so it might not even feel like I've gone anywhere, but it'll be a little bit less work for me for a month. I will be sans guest today because the duct tapers are my guests this time. The meat of this show, sorry, John Carippo, the show is not going to be about meat. I know you're excited about that part, but the meat of this show, this episode, will be a bunch of duct tapers season 2 classroom success stories, things from the show that they've tried out in their classrooms, and then the cherry on top of this season sundae. I don't know how I just put a cherry on top of the meat of the show. I'm not sure. Maybe this is the gravy. The gravy on top of this hunk of meat. That seems inappropriate too. I don't know. Maybe I should just stop using these metaphors. Anyhow, the highlight, the cherry on top, I'll stick with it. The hashtag EDU duct tape season 2 giggle mix for you. Yes, the giggle mix. And you're not going to want to miss that. I had so much fun recording it. There were so many fun things to include in there. I went back and listened to all the episodes on like triple speed to find all of the times that we had such fun laughs and pulled them all out just for you for the giggle mix. But before that giggle mix and before those classroom success stories, we've got a word from today's sponsor. As teachers, we know that when kids are truly engaged and excited about learning, it's the best feeling in the world. And in this new remote setting, that can feel harder to achieve than ever before. Pear Deck is here to help. With Pear Deck, you can easily transform your presentations into engaging, active lessons using Pear Deck formative assessments and questions, and send them straight to student devices so they could participate in real time. Ready to get started? Pear Deck is offering educators free premium access and free webinars every day so that you can get going right away. Plus, they've teamed up with myself and other educators to offer special edition webinars to share insight from a variety of educator perspectives. Save your seat at their next webinar today. Head to peardeck.com/learn-pair-deck to register. As usual, that link will be in the show notes. Head over there and find out how Pear Deck can support you, whether we are in a situation that is fully remote, partially remote, or all face-to-face. Pear Deck is there to help you. The link is in the show notes. For those of you who are educational duct tape newbies, this episode will be quite different from a normal episode, but will still be an enjoyable episode jam-packed with equal parts EdTech ideas and laughs. Maybe a little bit heavier on the laughs, but there'll be plenty of EdTech ideas too. To help you newbies understand what a typical episode is like, let me break down the coming third season of the show. That'll fill in the seasoned listeners to know what's coming up, and the newbies will understand what the show is like by knowing what's coming in the future. As long as everything everything goes according to plan, this season will launch on August 5th. I'll start out the show with an introduction, kind of like this one, followed by one of my soapbox moments, which are my chance to do something like a mini TED Talk, minus the stage and audience and professional speaker, plus the sounds that I make when climbing up on my soapbox. After that, I'll welcome in my guest. I'm so excited, by the way, to share the guest list for next season with you. Not yet. It's coming later, but I'm so excited for you guys to hear who is on the show. So many awesome educators. Anyhow, I'll welcome in my guest to do the educational duct tape thing. First, the guest and I play a game so that we can get to know them and laugh together. Then I'll ask the guest an educational duct tape question. This is a question that a teacher might have in their own practice. My guest and I will take turns discussing educational technology tools or strategies that we could use to answer that question. And that's what educational duct tape is. That's taking an educational question and applying some duct tape, that being a tool to that question using educational technology. After we tie a bow on that question and I bid my guest adieu, I spend some time diving into content from the duct tapers. This is the adjacent possible portion of the show. That's where you come in. In this part, I share some of my favorite tweets about the show, so get out there and share a clever one about today's episode. A recording from the Educational Duct Tape Flipgrid grid, so click the link in the show notes and submit a recording. And finally, an Apple Podcasts review for the show. So head over there and give the show a witty review. And then I'll bid you farewell for a fortnight, 2 weeks, until the next episode. But that's when the real fun starts, because a week later, on the following Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, we'll have a #EDU duct tape Twitter chat where we'll enjoy each other's company while chatting about the topics from that episode. And then, a week later, the process will start over again with a new guest. Listeners who have been on this ride for a while may have noticed that I didn't mention a mini episode in there. I've got 3 more coming this summer, but after that, I'll be retiring the mini episode format. Between the lack of in-person conferences to record them at and the lack of time that I'll have as part of my evenings gets dedicated to prepping lessons, sending feed forward to students, and communicating with parents instead of editing podcast episodes, because I'll be switching from my tech coaching role next year to an 8th grade science class, by the way. Because of that, I will need to find ways to save time where I can, and eliminating mini episodes will help with that. It won't make up all the time that I need to somehow find in my schedule, but it will help a little bit. So no mini episodes going forward after these next 3 roll out later this summer. A reminder, by the way, that you could see a Google Calendar that will tell you when episodes come out and when chats take place at eduducttape.com/podcast calendar. That link, by the way, is also in the show notes. Okay, so that gets the newbies up to speed and gets you all in the loop on what next season will look like. So a few weeks ago in my episode with Dr. Sarah Thomas, I shared my stance in support of the Black Lives Matter movement, against racism, and in support of educators working to better support justice in our schools for students and educators of color. I want you to know, before we move forward, that it was not a one-time stance, and that our support of justice for those who our country has unjustly treated is not and cannot be a fad. I am continuing to learn, read, grow, talk to the people in my life, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable, and prepare to do better for my students. I hope that you are doing the same, especially if you are a white educator like myself. Before we get into the episode's main content, I want to share a few learning opportunities with you. For the past few weeks, I've been leading a virtual workshop called Best Practices and Tools for Learning in All Settings workshop. This workshop is a partnership with Kent State University's Research Center for Educational Technology. At this point, 14 of the 42 participants have finished Cohort 1. Of those 14, 9 of them have rated it 5 out of 5 in terms of usefulness in their work as an educator. The other 5 of them all rated it 4 out of 5 on that scale. So all 14 considered it either useful or very useful in their practice as an educator. 12 of them, 12 out of the 14, said that they'd be very likely to recommend a future cohort to a colleague. And the other 2 said that they'd be likely to. So all 14 said that they would be likely to recommend it, and 12 of the 14 said they'd be very likely to recommend it. Well, here's their chance to recommend it. Registration for Cohort 2, which runs July 6th through 31st, and Cohort 3, which will run August 1st through 12th, are now open at jakemiller.net/KSU June 2020. And again, that link is in the show notes. Those 2 cohorts are July 6th through July 31st and August 1st through August 12th. Now, both of those cohorts are asynchronous. So if you are too late to sign up for the beginning of the July 6th one, you could start on July 7th or 8th or 9th or 10th or anytime in July, as long as you're prepared to be finished by July 31st. And the same goes for the August one. If August 1st doesn't work for you, you could join us on August 2nd or 3rd or 4th, as long as you're ready to be finished by August 12th. In this 12.5-hour virtual asynchronous course, you'll learn alongside other educators about my 4 MVPs of blended and remote learning: Flipgrid, screencasting, Edpuzzle, and Pear Deck or Nearpod. These are the 4 tools that I fear are the most valuable in blended or remote learning settings, meaning you will be prepared for whatever school looks like in the fall. You'll do the course whenever it fits in your schedule, as long as you finish by the scheduled end date. The only synchronous class element is the optional office hours, so you could do it all on whatever timetable works for you. Otherwise, it is completely asynchronous, and it's based in Google Classroom. You can even get graduate credit for the course if you choose to. You can get more info, again, at jakemiller.net/KSU June 2020, or by clicking the link in the show notes. Okay, I've got 2 other opportunities that I want to share. On July 20th, I'll be part of the Indiana Connected Educators Conference. I'll be doing my educational duct tape presentation as a part of this 5-day, free, open to all virtual conference. I'd rattle off the names of all the amazing presenters, but trust me, folks, you probably follow at least half of them already on Twitter and have at least a handful of their books on your bookshelf. Plus, you've heard 6 of them on this very podcast. Head over to iceconference.org to learn more. That's the Indiana Connected Educators Conference, iceconference.org. And the last one I want to share with you is the Teach with Tech Conference. I'll be a part of it on July 27th. I'll be sharing about the use of spreadsheets in math classes with my session, Holy Sheets, Batman! Spreadsheets in Math Class. This conference isn't free like the ICE one, but it's only $20, and it adds in lots of opportunities to discuss with other participants in the conference's Facebook group. So many of you may find that learning community in that Facebook group to be worth the small fee that's associated with that conference. Okay, that does it. Let's get to the season finale. So I think there are 2 important things to do as us Northern Hemispherites wrap up our school years. Number 1, reflect on all that we've accomplished. And goodness, after this school year, teachers' accomplishments have been nothing short of Herculean. So those are our Season 2 classroom success stories. And then number 2, reflect on all of the good times. It's been a tough year, but it's time now for us to kick back and enjoy some laughs. To fulfill that goal, I'll be presenting to you the Season 2 Giggle Mix. Oh man, it has been fun prepping that piece for the show. Okay, so our first duct taper sharing a success story today is Amy Huckabee. And I love hearing from Amy because I think she's been with us listening to the podcast since very early on, maybe since the first episode. And she was even part of the Season 1 Success Stories episode. And to see the growth and what she's sharing about now and hear it in her voice how proud she is of what she's accomplished, it feels good knowing that, listening to this podcast helped push her forward in that way. But a lot of the things that she lists here don't have anything to do with the podcast. She has just developed this awesome confidence and new mindset of how she's doing things in her classroom. It's so awesome to hear. So Amy, thank you for this call. The rest of you, as you hear all of the amazing things that Amy is doing in her classes, please know that I have jotted them all down in the show notes. So if you're driving on the road right now, you don't have to try to scribble down things you want to try out. You can go back to the show notes after you're all done and jot down the ones out of the show notes that you want to explore a little bit deeper. So take it away, Amy.
Hi, Educational Duct Tapers. My name is Amy Huckabee, and I work in a K-5 computer lab in Loveland, Colorado. I'm at Amy J. Huckabee on Twitter, and this podcast has transformed my teaching with all the tools that I've learned about from listening. Season 1 blew my mind, and Season 2, I'm so excited. Heck yeah, every week I have something new to bring into my classroom. My curriculum allows me some freedom in how I present my lessons. We've gone from focusing on keyboarding and basic computer applications to now really exploring different tools that work better for the students and the staff. Digital citizenship with Common Sense Media already uses a lot of the Google EDU apps anyway. Teachingwithcode.org, we've got Plugged and Unplugged, and the students are finally getting their hands on robots like Dash and Osmod and Spheros. So I couldn't pick just one tool. I made a list of everything I've brought into my lab this year because every tool works better for a different age group. So we did, shapegrams, Bitmoji, bringing equity in with some of my guest speakers, and really thinking about my lessons and how they are presented, and onto quizzes, thinking about brain science, thinking about giving the kids a chance to reassess really quickly while everything's still fresh, Google Forms data, choice boards, WeVideo, and Screencastify were my big two, because once we went to remote learning, I was using them for sharing lessons with other staff members as well as with students. And I'm still working on my confidence there, obviously, but those were my big two takeaways. And Flipgrid is a new one for me as well. So growing my PLN, and thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Oh, Amy, thank you so much for that. It was such a nice message. It was so good to hear. I'm proud of you for all that stuff, and I really appreciate the kind words there at the beginning about how the podcast has impacted you. And it's really cool seeing, the change between the stuff that you were excited about in season 1 and now all the stuff that you've added now at the end of season 2. And I think next year you're going to be leaving a message just like this about all of the things that you've been sharing with the educators around you and with your colleagues, and that you're presenting and that you're teaching them and how you're impacting them. I think that confidence that you mentioned, I think it's going to come. And I think next year you're going to be bragging about all of the awesome stuff that you've done and the impact that you've had on those people around you. So thank you for what you're doing, Amy. I appreciate you, and I appreciate your message. So Amy is, as far as I know, a longtime duct taper, and our next one up, I believe, is a newer duct taper. I do believe I recall this gentleman messaging in on a tweet one time and saying that every episode leads to him buying another book from another author that is a guest on the show. That was my first experience, at least that I could recall, with Lee. So and actually, Lee is going to tell us something about one of those books that he purchased because of the show. So take it away, Lee.
Hey, Jake. My name is Lee Tucker. I'm a high school English teacher at Villa Rica High School in Villa Rica, Georgia, and I'm on Twitter at Comic Socks. But out of all of the great content from this past season, I think the one that has impacted me and changed me the most was probably the interview with Jared Cooney Horvath. After listening to the interview, I picked up his book and I read through it all, and it has really changed the way I approach putting together presentation information for students and for professional learning presentations. So I've been working on implementing some of the stuff from his book to help my students remember stuff better and engage without so many distractions. So I really appreciated that interview. And it seems like almost every episode of yours I listen to, I have another book that I have to buy off of Amazon. Hope you're doing well.
Thank you for that message, Lee. I appreciate you listening to the show and sharing here. And you're right. You are one of many people have told me, hey, Jake, please stop making me spend money on books. But Jared Cooney Horvath, his guest appearance, I think, was one of the episodes where a lot of people were like, I am going on buying this book immediately. And it is a fantastic book, which I will put a link to that book and the episode itself into the show notes, because there's a lot of stuff that, as Lee talked about, there really changes the way you look at the way you present things to your students, teach things to your students, review things with your students, assess things with your students, and it really is impactful on presenting and learning. So I'm really fortunate that we had Jared on the show, and it sounds like Lee and his students are as well. So thank you for that, Lee. Okay, so up next, we've got another longtime duct taper and longtime Twitter friend from me in this whole educational adventure that I've been on for the past, 5 or 6 years. This is Lester Dinerstein, and Les can't decide what to talk about, so he just talks about a whole bunch of awesome stuff. At first, he's like, I'm not sure what I'm going to share about and what episodes are my favorite, but then he pulls out some awesome ideas and suggestions and reflections, but also a really awesome tip that I hadn't really even thought about myself. So I'm going to let him explain it, and then I will talk about it a little bit on the other end of this clip. Take it away, Les.
I've been racking my brain on what tools that have affected me, or what podcast that I really enjoyed, and I've enjoyed every single guest. I mean, you had the Merrills on, and they are extraordinary. I got to meet them at ITSE. You've had John Carippo amazing man. The fact that he can keep one-upping and he knows how to take an assignment and he knows how to tweak it. I think it's going to be interesting as the year goes on and we check in with him with his kids, because he's a teacher this year. He's going back into the classroom. But for me, the biggest tool that I have used consistently over and over is Screencastify. And honestly, I enjoy it. It's easy to use with Google Classroom. There's an editing feature where I make a mistake. I've learned early on that I can add in audio cues so I can go back and edit out any type of mistakes. And I've enjoyed that. I do need to get more creative, especially if COVID-19 is going to keep us home. There are some options and some great videos, great programs out there. One of the ones I want to dive into is WeVideo, but I'm hoping my school district gets an account. And if I can have that, then I can start pursuing that. But we do have Adobe Spark, and Adobe Spark does now integrate into Flipgrid. So I'm really excited to do that. All right, Jake. Thank you, man. You take care. Bye.
All right, thank you for that, Les. I appreciate you supporting the show and being a part of this PLN that we're developing here, and you're recording this message. So Les shared about a few favorite episodes, Joe and Kristen Merrill and John Carippo, and a few tools that we've talked about this year, Screencastify and WeVideo and Adobe Spark and Flipgrid. But he also shared one really good tip and one really good piece of news that you might not have heard of. So the tip, which I never really thought of, he said when he's recording in Screencastify, he puts in audio cues for himself to edit. So in other words, if he feels himself fumble over his words and knows in his head, I'm going to want to edit that out at the end, he maybe, yelps or claps or something like that. So he sees a spike in his audio so that he knows he can go back to that spot and edit it out. So if you're using a tool like Screencastify and you have access to the editing features, that's a really nice way to know, where you have to go back and make some edits and things like that. So good tip there, Les. I like that a lot, and that would work great in WeVideo and other tools like that too. And then the piece of news that Lester shared there is that Adobe Spark now works within Flipgrid. And what that means is you always could have made an Adobe Spark video and uploaded it into Flipgrid as a response or something like that. But now it is one of the tools that works as the centerpiece topic. I forget what Flipgrid calls them, but the piece at the beginning of a Flipgrid topic where the kid sees the video or the GIF or the attachment or whatever that you put right at the beginning as kind of a prompt for the students. Now Adobe Spark is one that works right in there through a agreement, collaboration between the two companies. That's really exciting. And yeah, thank you, Les, for sharing that with everybody. Other good news, by the way, was shared in the Flipgrid Live event, which was just a few days ago. So I think Les was coming fresh off the high of that excitement and shared that little pointer in there. I'm going to link into the summary post about all the other new updates to Flipgrid that are coming starting on August 1st is when some of the first ones roll out. And I'm sure you'll be hearing about them in the show next season aplenty. So our next duct taper to share here is Michelle. And Michelle, I love this this recording from Michelle because it does two things for me. It makes me it just makes me smile hearing how excited she is about some of the things that she's learned to do in her classrooms and some of the kind of the stuff that's opened up to her as she's been exposed to different things. And Michelle, I appreciate you giving me some credit in that, and the podcast some credit in that. But it's all you. I might have opened the door for you, but it's you that walks through and does the stuff. So don't give me too much credit. This is you. You've been working your tail off for your students. But the other thing that I want to point out here that is so awesome about Michelle's message is the adjacent possible of it, which she's saying that she started listening to the podcast and then that opened her up to this and then that opened her up to that and then it's opened up to her that, and it's really impacted what she's doing in the classroom. And now she's feeling excited about where she's going to go from here because of that adjacent possible, because of that trip she's taken over the last year or however long it's been for her. She now sees new opportunities in her future, and that's just exciting. That's what we want to happen, right? And that's the excitement where we feel like we're taking, it's not overwhelming because we're taking individual steps, right? And she knows that now I've taken this series of steps to get to here and to survive teaching my students remotely. And next I'm going to take this series of steps moving forward. And she knows, as we saw from Amy earlier, that next year when she's calling in a message just like this, she's going to be sharing something even further down the road because of that adjacent possible as she keeps diving further and further and expanding, going to more rooms of this expanding house that she's in through this adjacent possible. Let's see what Michelle has to share.
Hey Jake, I'm Michelle from Colorado, and I teach at Fort Lupton High School. Go Blue Devils! And I just want to thank you, first of all, because I think you were the first one that I found, and I think I found you through podcast, and then you led me to Stacy Rashan, Matt Miller, Twitter, mind blown. And oh my gosh, I have just been eating up the info. But what has transformed what I've been able to do this year, and it's helped me to feel like I have made an impact and concluded the year successfully, as much as any of us can say, right, is Pear Deck. I got my kids engaged, not only just through my content, but through some of the stuff that they put in. You know, we were able to talk about some crucial issues. I teach math, but we went beyond all that. But I just want to say that I'm super excited about what's happening in education right now, and I'm so grateful to be where I am right now, and I just appreciate you and this community. Thanks so much. Have a great summer.
First off, Michelle, go Blue Devils. My high school mascot was a Blue Devil as well. What a weird name for a mascot for a school. I was always like, what is a Blue Devil? Where did that come from? But also, Michelle, thank you so much for your message at the end there. I love how educators, even though like things are tough in our world and for a lot of different reasons, Michelle is excited about the ways that she as an educator can benefit her students and help them and support them through these trying times. And she's like a kid when they get a good problem in front of them and they're like, it looks really tough, and they're like, oh yeah, this is going to be fun, right? And we're excited even though it's going to be difficult. And that's the attitude that Michelle is taking to this right now, where she's excited about her potential to do things that support and benefit her students. That's a duct taper if I've ever heard one, right? Speaking of a true duct taper with the mindset that we love to see in our duct tapers, here comes somebody who's been with the show, as far as I know, since the very beginning, and has been sharing the awesome things that she's doing in her classrooms on her blog and on Twitter, and connecting through the show and sharing things that she's taking away from the show and participating in the Twitter chats and just doing awesome stuff and being a wonderful resource herself, is Sarah Kiefer. And Sarah Kiefer has a very specific episode that she learned from, and then ended up being perfectly timed for her as she entered remote learning, and it became a big part of her practice and her school's practice. So let's hear what Sarah has to share about that.
Hey Jake and you edu duct tapers out there, the We Video episode with Manny Curiel, unbelievable. I was super excited, connected with John Klein, and started a trial of We Video with my district, and 2 weeks later we went on remote learning. I had been struggling to think what I could do at the elementary level with We Video. And I know we could, in theory, we could do a whole lot. I just was worried about in practice. But with remote learning, my teachers fell in love with it. They started using it to create videos. Lots of those videos you saw out there, the sharing the love type videos. I used it personally to help both of the buildings that I support make their announcements and be able to share it out to our communities. Where I started highly intimidated by We Video, I now absolutely love it. I just wrapped up another We Video today, in fact, for a talent show for one of the buildings. Can't wait for that to go out. And I'm excited to see what we can do with our students and what our students can do with We Video. So you can find me on Twitter at KieferSJ. I also write a blog. You can find that at techyoucando.com. Hope everybody has a great summer. Looking forward to hearing what everybody else shares.
That was a fantastic response there from Sarah Kiefer. If you're not already following her on Twitter or visiting her site, which she said was techyoucando.com, I recommend checking out the work that she's doing there. She's got some great resources on her site. And I like that in her example there, she's kind of doing the educational duct tape thing that we talk about pretty often, which is that she did the knowing better part of when you know better, you do better. And that first know better was becoming aware of the tool We Video and exploring it. And then she did the second part of knowing better, which was becoming aware of a problem, which was the need need for video-based content during remote learning. And then she did the doing better part, which was putting a tool that she was aware of in place to solve a problem that she's aware of, which is the remote learning, and having a solution, which was the teachers using WeVideo in that situation where they might not have bought into WeVideo quite as much until they identified that need they had. And that's really what we talk about here on Educational Duct Tape is, we're not all using all of the same tech tools, but we use the tech tools that support us in the situations that we're in. And in that situation, WeVideo became a great tool for her. So a really great example of what we do here on the show. Up next, we've got Vicki Heipel, who's going to talk about one of her favorite episodes from this season here on the Educational Duct Tape podcast. Take it away, Vicki.
Hi, Jake. Vicki Heipel here from Montana at 33 Heipel on Twitter. So I just had a great connection with episode 41. And the thing that stood out to me the most was Caitlin's question that she posed about how are we designing lessons that free us up from being at the front of the room? And why would we even want to do that if things feel like they're going well? But I like that she pointed out how feedback that's given in isolation doesn't help the student grow. And so her why you would want to do that was super helpful for me. I am now trying to spend more of my time in deeper thinking about how I could create lessons that would allow me to sit with students and give them feedback while they are working instead of being that direct instruction at the front of the room. So I'll probably spend quite a bit of time this summer working on doing that and creating those types of lessons and thinking about how I could do that. I have already started creating some Edpuzzle lessons that I used over the remote learning situations that'll probably help me in those situations. And I tried out some one-on-one conferences through Google Meet with my students in forensics class this year, and they did go very well. So just practicing some of those skills that I'll need to be able to design those lessons and to make that station rotation type of lesson effective in my class. So thanks for all you do, and keep up all the great episodes.
Thank you for that response, Vicki. I really love that Vicki identified that episode with Caitlin, which was a phenomenal episode, her guidance on feedback and blended learning and things like that she has used it to change kind of the lens that she looks at the activities that she's doing. It might not mean that she's totally changing everything she's doing or the content she's using or the tools she's using. It's that she's changing some of the strategies she's using based on what she heard from Caitlin. And by the way, Caitlin's book on blended learning looks phenomenal. I have not got my hands on it yet and checked it out yet, but I'm excited to dig into those ideas from Caitlin. So that was a great episode, Vicki. Very good point there. Okay, up next, we've got a response from Laura Lavery, and Laura is sharing a response about a tool that I used to think was called Quizzes, but Laura thinks otherwise, and maybe I've been wrong all along. I'm not sure if I'm the one that's wrong or if Laura's wrong. It made me laugh while I was listening to it, but the idea that she's referring to that came from one of our remote learning episodes is a phenomenal one, and I love Laura's reflection on how she's using it. Let's check it out. Take it away, Laura.
Hi everyone, I really want to spotlight Allison Curry's feature of adding memes to Quizzes. As a middle school teacher, my students really enjoy Quizzes for two reasons. And one is that they get tons of feedback when they're playing the live mode, and so they know if their answer is correct or incorrect. And I really think they like the memes so much because it's applicable to the real world, and I just found out that I could actually make memes of myself or the kids or import them. So I think that's going to be a game changer. And another feature I really like with Quizzes is I can, especially during distance learning, assign this for a later date, and then the kids have autonomy when they can actually play the Quizzes. And like I said, they get so much data, and for me as the educator, I get question by question breakdown of the Quizzes, and then I know my class accuracy. So I just think it's a really powerful tool that you can use online and then in the classroom for a competition. And of course, the memes keep the students engaged.
Thank you so much for that response, Laura. I have to be honest that I giggled all the way through it because I always thought it was Quizzes, but now that I hear you say Quizzies, I think it should be called Quizzies because it just sounds so much cooler that way, even if it's not really Quizzies. I don't know what it is. We'll call up the company and see which one it is, but I think that if it's not Quizzies, we need to start a petition to rename it Quizzies because I just love hearing you say that. But the idea she's referring to, phenomenal idea that blew my mind back in episode 39, I'm not sure if it was part 1, 2, or 3. It was one of the remote learning episodes. Allison Curry talked about how you can create your own memes inside of quizzes or quizzes, which I never really thought was that special of a thing. Like, I thought it was neat that you could do it and it was fun that you could do it, but I never really thought it was that important. But then Allison pointed out, then remote learning, what a great way to add that personalized piece in there, so that when the students are doing those activities in there, they're actually seeing a little piece of their teacher in there too and having some fun with it. And I like that Laura latched on to that idea, because I do think it's a lot of fun to do that in quizzes or quizzes, either of them. Okay, so our final classroom success story from season 2 comes from my friend Patrick, who shares an awesome idea, which is actually perfect that I'm sharing it as the last one, because what Patrick's kind of talking about doing is how he pulled in all of the different tools that he's learned about via this podcast or other sources and kind of melded them into one big system of tech integration, which is really awesome. So I really like Patrick's idea, and he mentions a resource in his recording, and that link is in the show notes. So let's hear about Patrick's awesome resource and idea.
Hey everybody, this is Patrick Hausman. I am Supervisor of Instructional Technology for Clark County Public Schools in Northern Virginia, and I can be found at PHAUSEDU on Twitter. That's at PHAUSEDU. And one of the things that I wanted to share, and I guess the main thing I'm going to share, is something that I and one of our teachers came up with, a concept called Apps Days. And this concept is really informed by a lot of the different people that have been on the show for Edu Duct Tape, but also Twitter chats and just our PLN in general. And it is the concept that we created a hyperdoc that would be used to build relationships with students at the beginning of the year, but that hyperdoc would strategically use certain technologies to build both those relationships, but at the same time build some student efficacy with those tech tools, so that later on in the year, when different projects came up or different things came up in class, the teacher could just say, hey, jump into Canva and do this, or jump into Google Slides and do this. And with that allowed us to then transition to remote learning and use those same apps very nicely. So again, it's a concept of front loading, building relationships, but coupling that with some of the technologies you're going to use throughout the year. And I'll link the slide deck in for you so you can check it out. You can always reach out to me at PHAUSEDU or Mr. Phil Strunk at Mr. P. Strunk on Twitter. Thanks.
All right, thank you for that, Patrick, and to Patrick's collaborator there that he mentions at the end, Phil Strunk, 2 awesome guys, 2 awesome educators. So thank you for that recording, Patrick, and the hard work that you guys have done and that you're willing to share with the rest of the Duct Tapers. That's really awesome of you. The super secret code is Giggle. So for your certificate of listening, laughing, and learning for today's episode, head over to eduducttape.com/certificate and type in the code GIGGLE. GIGGLE. So that does it for the first part of the season 2 ending celebration, and that part was the Duct Taper success stories from, I normally call them classroom success stories, but we ended up out of our classrooms for such a large chunk of the year. It seems like we should just call them learning success stories, I guess, maybe educational duct tape success stories. So that part is wrapped. Next up is the part that I am so excited for you guys to hear, which is the season 2 Giggle Mix. I painstakingly went back through all of the episodes of the show, found some of my favorite times that we had laughs in the show, and mixed them all together. You're going to want to listen all the way to the end because there are some fantastically funny moments, and you deserve the opportunity to laugh. Before we jump into that Giggle Mix, I want to thank you guys for being a huge part of my Adjacent Possible and for being a part of each other's Adjacent Possible through the things that you share and the connections that we all have through this wonderful community. I really, really, really appreciate you. I will be back with a new episode, hopefully on August 5th, and I will probably have some mini episodes between now and then. You can make sure that you don't miss out on any of those by making sure that you're subscribed to the show in your favorite podcast app and making sure that you're signed up for my newsletter, which is linked in the show notes, so that if I do announce any extra episodes in between now and then or change those dates or anything like that, you are aware of any of those changes. In the meantime, while you wait for that next episode to come back out, please do share about the show or connect with other listeners on social media like Twitter at #EduDuctTape. Join the Duct Tapers Facebook group to connect with other Duct Tapers there. Share on the Flipgrid grid that's associated with the show. Link is in the show notes, and I will probably use that audio early on next season. Leave the show an Apple Podcast review if you haven't done so yet. I really do appreciate that. And don't forget to tell a friend if you know another educator who deserves some EdTech learning and some EdTech laughing. Please do share it with them so they can join the Duct Taper community, right? And learn and laugh alongside the rest of us. Finally, thank you so much for your hard work this school year. It was a rough year, and this summer has already started off with some rough stuff, and you are just persisting and awesome, and I appreciate you. Your students appreciate you. The parents and your school community appreciate you. Thank you for what you're doing, number one, in the classroom and in your learning environment, but number two, also by tuning into this and showing that you are a lifelong learner and are trying to get better. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon. Here is the Season 2 Giggle Mix. Enjoy. And it goes a little something like this. I feel like I should break into a beat right there. It goes a little something like this, actually.
I mean, if I wasn't wearing a dress, then I'm totally game for leaving a room doing cartwheels. So it sounds like fun.
I imagine like next year at ISTE, I see you present, you walk off the stage and you're like, all right, bye everybody, and you cartwheel out of the room. Wait, what? No, it's not your turn yet. I know that's what I'm going to talk about when it's soapbox time. You're right. I'm just not ready yet. Hold your horses. No, high horse, not you. I'm sure I'll need you at some point too, but not right now. Anyhow, where was I?
You are taller than you sound.
Yeah. Do I sound short?
Didn't say you sounded short. You were just taller than you sound.
Okay, all right. Oh, hey Jake, we have a problem. Yeah, how will we remember? Never fear, for technology is at its best when it is used to solve a problem or meet a goal. So I, EDU Duct Tape Man, will make a Google Calendar. Which of the following would be less torturous? Sweating, sugar syrup, or having edible noodles?
Oh my god. Both are disgusting, and I don't know which one I'd prefer, but
I guess you don't have to eat either of them. You just have it, right?
I guess, like if you're going to sweat, why not sweat sugar? I mean, that way people, if you're like stuck in an island, you could at least have something edible to eat.
I'm now picturing you like a cat, like sitting around licking your paws. You're right. You're grooming yourself to get to take some of the sweaty sugar. This is gross. Way to go, Jake. You've created the grossest podcast episode yet. Welcome to McDonald's. Can I take your order, please? Yes, I'll take courage, please. Because wait, I'm not playing the game right, Mike. You're lying. How do I not understand this game? I'm a relatively intelligent person, Mike, and I just can't handle this.
All right, I'll make up a story for the lie if you'd like me to do that.
No. Okay. Jake, you're in charge of the board now. Where would you like to go? Yes, Alex, I'll take courage for 200, please.
Shout out to Aunt Cosmo.
Hold on, let me try that again. Mr. Connery, the board is yours. Where would you like to go? Yes, Trebek. I'll take cow rage for 200, please. That's courage. Thank you, Trebek. Ah, yes, High Horse. I have wandered a bit from my point, haven't I?
Oof.
Oh, man.
People are like turning off their phone. Like, I can't listen to this. This guy is so immature. Why is he asking this question? I'm just done with this podcast. But you still have to answer.
Which of the following would be less torturous? Whatever food you smell smells like a stink bug, or whatever clothes you wear are too small.
Putting Vision of Love on repeat. That's like a totally different Mariah Carey than Mariah Carey now. Like, it's not even the same person anymore.
Don't even talk about that.
Mariah Carey. Oh, Mariah. Mariah's probably listening to the show. Mariah's a huge fan of educational technology, and now she's offended. His booze cast is awesome. Hashtag EDU duct tape. I think she meant to type podcast.
I discovered that scorpions on a stick are actually quite nice to eat.
Oh my gosh. Well, that one is freaking me out a little bit.
So I would highly recommend that you try it out. If you can get past the cracking noise that it makes, but yeah.
And then is it like a meat inside?
Oh, I wouldn't call it that anymore. It's probably been on the barbecue for an awful long time, so.
Jake, I can't do the Twitter chat next week, so maybe I should just stop listening to this podcast episode.
No, Grandma who owned Tweety Bird. Please don't stop listening. I'm gonna guess that the baseball scholarship was a lie.
Jake, you don't think I could have made it to the baseball scholarship?
No, I think you accepted the scholarship. I don't know what I think.
Okay.
So I'm going to go with the clothes that would be too small for me to wear, that I would wear them. So that means my clothes would be super tight. And you know what? I've been working on my beach body because I was supposed to go to Mexico, but now that that's changed, I'll still wear clothes that are too tight.
The beach body part was really weird.
Yeah, a little bit awkward, right?
That guy's awkward.
Brian's a good guy, Cole. Don't call him awkward.
Okay.
You know when they make that transition from body odor to way too much Axe body spray? Or whatever that thing is?
Yeah.
Well, I haven't heard the episode, so I won't participate in the chat.
Well, John Malkovich, or whoever you are. All right, Beckett, what do you think of Mr. Less's answer there?
Pretty good.
You think it was pretty good? I think it was a little bit weird.
Yeah.
His story was a little bit goofy. Do you agree?
Yeah.
And the student said that they were cold, so I told them to go stand in the corner because everyone knows that it's warmer in the corner. So this girl, she stands up and walks to the front of the room and goes stands in the corner during the lesson. And I let a minute or two go by and asked her, does it feel warmer over there? And she goes, actually it does. And I said, does it feel about 90 degrees?
Oh. You and I need to talk, Soapbox. You've got a Twitter account now? What? You don't even have hands. How can you be tweeting? You didn't even tell me in advance that you knew how to tweet. I didn't ask. Why would I ask a soapbox if it tweets?
Yeah, they're going to have to work for it, honey.
Work for it.
Okay.
You better work. We're going back to the RuPaul part earlier. Said, while listening to @JakeMillerTech's latest #EDU duct tape episode, I was reminded of the original Steve on #Blues Clues, having a full conversation with Blue. I believe a write-in campaign for best supporting character in a podcast is overdue for Jake's soapbox. The banter was, and then he gives me three fire emojis. Thank you for that, Mike.
Growing up, I had a couple of odd summer jobs.
Okay.
And one of the jobs was selling ice cream on the beach.
Okay.
Another job was picking potatoes. And a third job I had was raising chickens for a nearby farmer.
What? I have no idea which one it's going to be.
I'm impressed by what you did in your class today.
Well, if I lose some weight, I might get a beach body.
Right, like Brian, you guys. Speaking of Twitter chaps, I'm not speaking of chaps. Not only did you have the same exact ed tech tool, but you both were able to predict what the other's favorite tool
Is that what you
was.
said mine was?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Wait, double points. I should get 2 points for that one.
I have 4 points. You guys don't understand the scoring system for this. I should have gone over the scoring. I have a rubric over here. I should have given it to you.
Why did your daughter pull all of the tissues out of the tissue box?
Hold on 1 second. Oh, there's Mitzi's. Today we talked about a pun competition where a man entered 10 hoping to win, but no pun intended. That was a good one.
I would find less torturous the idea that my clothing is always too too small. Excuse me.
Kind of awkward.
You think it was awkward? Sorry, Nate. Code thinks it was awkward. Do you? Did you notice that originally Nate wanted to say that his clothes were kind of small and that he accidentally said swall? Have you ever heard that word before?
I'll go get the dictionary.
Walk out. Tiny little mini. Shape as in shape, grams as in like Instagrams, .com. Why did I just say the metric measurement grams? Why did I go to Instagrams there? that was the most 2019 way to explain something ever. Super secret code. Oh gosh. Every time I have to keep saying it because it's now part of the gag, but super secret code.
I listen to Baby Shark on the way as I'm walking from building to building. But
Today, I'd like to talk about butts. No, weirdos, not those kinds of butts. Get your minds out of the gutter. I want to talk about the word butt. B-U-T. And despite my appreciation of Sir Mix-a-Lot, this is why I like big ands more than I like big butts.
I am just a total dork who loves learning.
Really freaky.
That his name's Jake Miller?
Yeah.
And he said that I was handsome. Did you hear that part?
Yeah, but I don't know about your heads up.
You're not sure if I'm handsome? You're a stinker.
April Fool.
Was it a nip slip? True or false?
That is a lie. That part is a lie.
Phew. Hot Pockets. But... gosh, that really was a hot pocket of a lesson, wasn't it?
It was just like Diddy said, tell your friends to get with my friends and we can all be friends. So that's kind of how we've grown over the years.
You know why teenagers only travel in groups of 3? Because they can't even.
Does it get better for a teacher than to have a barbecue class that changes people's lives?
It would change my life
I'm
too.
tearing up right now.
I'd rather have a wedgie than eat a wedgie that stinks.
Now he's on the top 1 of most awkward people on this thing.
Why are you calling my friends awkward, Co?
I'm being serious.
Actually, I've had the first one happen. No, it was like an email notification, and it was for like not baldness, but for something.
Other types of prescriptions.
Yeah, other types of prescription medications.
That's great.
So,
oh gosh,
always block the notification.
Yes. What's a thong? Uh-oh. Allison, why are you making me teach my 8-year-old daughter what a thong is? What is going on, Allison? Parker, do you really know what a thong is? Are you being silly?
No, I do not.
A thong is like a bathing suit that doesn't cover your butt. It just goes up the crack of your butt.
That makes no sense.
Would you want to wear one of those while you're out skiing?
It doesn't sound comfortable.
It doesn't sound comfortable in the summer or in the winter, but less so in the winter. The lesson here is don't eat McDonald's, I think.
Well, look. They say look both ways before you cross the street.
You know,
and
I guess we could use that one.
I could have done better. Yeah.
I guess that could be our lesson. That will keep me from losing McDonald's as a sponsor. They've been sponsoring the podcast for a while. I bring in a lot of bucks out of that one.
A dollar menu, yeah.
Okay, Miller kids, here's the deal. I love my food. If you know me, I love my food. Don't get in between me and my food.
I'd like to say that I want to start another food eating contest with her.
Okay, is it going to be donuts only?
Definitely.
Jake, you go home, you want to learn how to tap dance. You could find a YouTube video. You know, there's so much.
I already know how to tap dance. I'm a great tap dancer.
I actually do carry a bottle of Axe in my bag just, for the times that I'm walking over to the middle school. So actually, it's amazing that you knew my strategy. I'm impressed.
You know what Cohen would say?
What?
It smells like stink bugs.
Doesn't Cohen talk about beach bodies?
He does talk about beach bodies.
I have had 2 black widow spiders as pets in a terrarium.
Okay. And you probably just saw me on camera, Catlin, go like my eyes get big, like, oh my gosh.
Your eyes doubled in size, 100%.
I am afraid of frogs. Like, I think they're going to jump at me. I steer clear away from frogs. They're slimy. Ugh, yuck.
Jump at you and do what?
I don't, then I'd feel their slime on my skin? No way.
I had on a brand new pair of jeans, and they seemed kind of snug at the time, but whatever. Who knows?
Okay.
And as I'm, about 10 minutes later, I go to stand up, and I, feel a little bit of a draft in my hindquarters, and
hindquarters, yes.
Cock-a-doodle-doo, 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 cock-a-doodle-doo.
Jake, what was the tone of your invite? I'm not sure I understood the tone of your invite. That don't happen. Is this something your wife makes you do when you're eating kale-flavored candy?
Did she say, record a podcast with John Carippo, get out, finish your kale-flavored candy, and then get down there and record that?
This shall not stand. We will not accept this score for ourselves.
This is some highfalutin something or other.
Right. Highfalutin is definitely that's actually the word most people use to describe my podcast. His podcast is very highfalutin.
That's right.
Corey Orlando 1.
Does that guy have on Joe Boxer underwear with a tear in the back of his head? Yes, he does.
Shout out to Harry Wong, who I'm not really a big fan of, but that's a long story.
I love the shout-outs, by the way.
It's just a thing I do.
Yeah, hauling my 230-pound butt up a wall. I need to lose some pounds.
Now, is 230 pounds the weight of just your butt, or that's you?
It's debatable. I don't know.
Before you leave, would you like to take a ride on the high horse while you're here?
Oh, you better believe I would. I brought a ladder.
Okay, good.
With me.
Do you have a helmet? Oh, there's a helmet. You got a helmet.
Yes,
good.
I do have my helmet on.
Good thing.
Let me just put it on. Okay, there it is.
Yeah. Do you have, just in case when you hop over, it is a stretch with the legs. I'm a little worried about your jeans. Do you have a backup pair of jeans just in case?
I brought some leather chaps just in case.
Oh, great. Perfect. You really kicked that up a notch there with the chaps.
This beef heart is not accurate at all. This is not even close.
I'm like, what? Doesn't anyone want a grasshopper?
Right.
No? Okay,
I
just make you a Harvey Wallbanger. Come on, everybody. They lied to me. They took my medicine.
A Harvey Wallbanger,
That's what I always
the
figure
most popular drink in the book. Well, come on.
That was it? The mint juleps? Nobody? You guys suck.
Oh my God, what is wrong with me? I need a sip or something.
Take a sip. Take a deep. Okay, I'm gonna mute myself. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what makes a good cocktail, by the way? This will be, I don't know if your listeners care. More booze. I know it sounds counterintuitive.
This is why people voted for you. They're like, he gives us extra booze in our drink. The drinks didn't actually taste that good. They just liked you because of the value of you as a bartender. So go ahead. What are your 3 statements?
3 statements.
Give me some more context. I need to give you three statements. One is not true. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, here's my first one. Ready? John's not good at things on the first try.
Okay.
Second statement. What is the EdTech duct tapiest thing you have done? Like, what is the sketchiest thing that you said? I don't know, but I'm gonna duct tape this because I got about 500 stickers that say I do. What's the sketchiest duct tapiest thing you've done? I can give you a couple of mine, but I would like to hear what yours are.
John, you're supposed to ask the question that's at the bottom of the doc there.
Oh, I was just randomly making up questions.
But I don't know my answer. If I had a good answer, I would have gone with it. But I don't know what my answer is. So I'm going to take that out because I look like a fool not knowing my answer.
Oh,
but
that was such a good question, though.
Yeah,
okay, so my question, do we need to have a few seconds of silence and then reboot?
I think for the safety of the audience, we need to wrap this up.
Yeah, my husband is like, honey, you're yelling. I was like, sorry.
Thank you for being a special guest on the show today.
My pleasure.
Your pleasure. Okay, any parting words for the duct tapers that are listening right now?
Beach body.